Good evening. It being 7 o'clock, there being a quorum present, and having been advised by the town clerk that the warrant has been properly served, this annual town meeting of the town of Plympton is now open. Welcome, I'm your moderator, Barry DiCristofano, 198 Main Street. Thank you for coming tonight. I'll briefly go over how tonight's meeting will run. There will not be feedback from the microphone. Item number 2, there's a microphone in the middle there, and what we'll do when someone wants to speak, you'll come up to the microphone, be recognized by the moderator, and then state your name and your street address, and there'll be no more than 2 people in line at a time. Wait till people sit down and come back up. At this moment, I would ask everyone to please rise and observe a moment of silence for those Plympton neighbors of ours who have passed away since our last meeting, especially those who have had roles as town officers or on committees. David Batchelder, David Colo, Patricia Harlfinger, James Mustacaros, Jackie Freitas, Michelle Lanes, Carolyn Northen, and Shirley Martin. Thank you, and please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please be seated. Thank you. I'd like to thank the Denton Principal, Peter Brunetto, and all the custodial staff for setting up the room for tonight. Tonight we'll be holding both our annual town meeting and special town meeting. We do this way every year. This annual town meeting addresses things for the upcoming fiscal year. This will be fiscal year 26 that starts on July 1st. Then, or a little bit after 8 p.m., we'll recess the annual town meeting and begin the special town meeting, which covers some funding issues for this year's spending, 2025. When we're finished with those items, we'll go back into the annual town meeting. You should have all received a mailed copy of the town meeting warrant or picked one up when you checked in and hopefully had a chance to review it. Tonight's meeting is being taped for broadcast by Area 58 Community Access Media. Please silence your cell phones now. Take them out and check them, please. I will wait.
This closer because it won't be heard.
Present here tonight on your right, my left, the Board of Selectmen, Chairman John Traynor, Mark Russo, Dana Smith, our Town Administrator Liz Dennehy, Town Council Jonathan Eichman, and our Town Clerk Tara Shaw. On your left is the Finance Committee. Marilyn Brown, Chairperson, Catherine Shepard, Nate Sides, Steve Lewis, and Mike Lemieux, as well as our Town Accountant, Lisa Hart, down on the end. The tellers and counters for this evening will be Nancy Magnuson and Madeline Pompey, and our peace officer tonight is Officer Nathan Cristofori. Several of our officials are not residents of the town and as such need your permission to address the assembly. I will entertain a motion that will allow the following individuals to participate tonight when and if appropriate. Our Town Administrator Elizabeth Dennehy, Town Council Jonathan Eichman, Town Treasurer Collector Christine Kelly, and Police Chief Matthew All, Assistant Assessor Holly Murray, Library Director Mike Slauson. Oh no, he's a resident now. Sorry, that's my bad. Silver Lake Regional School Superintendent Jill Prue and School Business Manager Sarah Hickey. I'll entertain a motion to allow them to speak. And second? All in favor of allowing the list of individuals to speak, raise your hand, please. Down hands opposed? Unanimous, passes. Are there any other people who are, besides in the front row, who are not registered voters of Plympton? Okay, you're in the front row, you're good. All right, thank you. Procedures for tonight. I went over the microphone. After being recognized by me, state your name and your full street address, house number and street, before you begin your comments or questions to help us better get to know one another. Please direct all comments through me, the moderator. I'll then direct your questions to the appropriate person. There will be no side discussions. Article sponsors will be allowed up to 3 minutes for a presentation. Speakers from the floor will be allowed up to 3 minutes. Anyone wishing to speak a second time on the same article will need to wait until everyone that wants to speak gets a chance to do so, and must be bringing something new to the discussion, not just rehashing what's already been said. To help you work through tonight's list of articles, we'll observe couple of rules. One is, if you're proposing any substantial amendment, not just this word, should be that word, they must be submitted in writing to the town clerk. Finally, we come here as friends and neighbors. We all know each other for the most part. We'll still be neighbors and hopefully friends when we leave tonight. Please have civility and respect for all speakers, because that is Plympton. On to Article 1. Article 1, to hear reports of the town officers and act thereon, and to receive and act thereupon reports of any committees, and give authority or instructions, or take any other action relative thereto.
Mr. Moderator, John Trainer, 62 Crescent Street, Plympton. I move the article as printed in the warrant.
Do I have a second? It's been moved and seconded.
Went too quick.
Are there any reports of town officers that want to be given tonight, or town committees? So, I mentioned this last year. So if you look at your town report, committees and boards for the most part have all submitted their report here for you to read. This is what they did over the past year. You should read it. And there may be 4 or 5 committees or boards that aren't in here. I suggest you go to one of their meetings or contact them and find out what they've been up to, because they're not here tonight to talk about it. So I can just move to Article 2.
You could vote if you want.
All right, there's been a motion and a second to hear reports. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Down, hands opposed. It carries. Article 2, to see if the town will vote to authorize the town treasurer to enter into compensating balance agreements for FY 2026 as permitted by, in accordance with, Mass General Law, Chapter 44, Section 53F, or take any other action relative thereto.
Mr. Moderator, I move the article as printed in the warrant.
Do I have a second? Article's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing no hands, all in favor of Article 2, please raise your hand. Down, hands opposed. Unanimous. Article 3, to see if the town will vote to amend the wage and personnel classification plan effective July 1, 2025, and to pay as wages the following sums or take any other action relative thereto. Now, the way we'll do this tonight is I will read down each line. I'm not going to give you the numbers. That's too confusing. I'll give you the titles of the jobs. If anybody has a question or a comment about the numbers that the Wage and Personnel Board is recommending for tonight, call out hold, and then we'll come back and address that. Do I have a motion for Article 3? Does anybody want to move Article 3?
I make a motion that we move the article as printed in the warrant.
And a second? Come on, guys. Thank you. We've got a lot going on tonight. Thank you. All right. Recommendations for fiscal year 2026. Highway Department. Highway Superintendent, working foreman, motor equipment repairman, equipment operator, truck driver, laborer. Under our clerical and election workers, senior clerk, warden, constable. For elder affairs, director of elder affairs, senior aide. Library director, senior library technician, circulation assistant. Police other, special police officer, police matron. Under professional, land use coordinator, assistant assessor, administrative assessor, health agent, conservation agent. Somebody say something? Town hall support, assistant town accountant, assistant town clerk, assistant treasurer collector, administrative assistant, senior clerk or clerk. Town labor, senior disposal attendant, town custodian, laborer. And under veterans affair, our veterans agent. Seeing no hands to comment or no holds on any of those lines, all in favor of Article 3 as printed, please raise your hands. Down, hands opposed. Unanimous.
It's good, yes.
Article 4. To see if the town will fix the compensation of elected officers and to see what sums of money the town will raise and appropriate, including appropriation from available funds or borrow to defray charges and expenses of the town, including debt and interest for the ensuing year, or take any other action relative thereto. Do I have a motion?
Make a motion that we approve the, as printed in the warrant article.
And a second?
Second.
Article's been moved and seconded. So this is the big omnibus budget. This is where all your tax dollars are going here, how the town's going to use them, plus some other money. So the way this will work, if you're new to it, I will do it by group, as they're broken out here in your warrant. Again, I will go down the description of each line and the Finance Committee's recommendation. If anybody has a question about any of those, call out hold. We'll come back and look at it, and then we'll progress on. Line 10, insurance premiums, $172,000. Line 15, county pension, $877,635. Group health, $605,000. Medicare, $100,000. Unemployment, $1,000. That brings the total insurance and pension line to $1,755,635. All in favor of that amount for the total insurance pension, please raise your hand. Down, hands opposed. Yeah, unless they tell me otherwise. So these, council wanted me to point out that unless we hear otherwise from a group or from an accountant or the finance committee, these amounts all come out of raised and appropriate. So these are monies that are raised and appropriated for your taxes. Next section, 100, reserved, there's nothing. 105, Board of Appeals, $700. 110, Conservation Commission, $3,150. Conservation Agent, $37,186. Open Space, $2,000. Web and IT Services, $7,438. Council on Aging, $7,397. COA Director Stipend, $25,679. COA Support Staff, $35,000. Finance Committee, $1,500. Historical Commission, $250. Moderator salary, $200. Planning Board, $5,709. Recreation Committee, $27,260. Hearing no holds, that brings the total for general government, now the raise and appropriate, $154,229. All in favor of that amount, those amounts and that total, raise your hands. Down hands, opposed? It's not unanimous, but it passes. Line 160, assessor's salaries, $3. Assistant assessor, $42,376. Certification compensation, $1,000. Assessor's support staff, $23,843. Assessor's expense, $32,795. Bringing the total for the assessor's office to $100,017. Hearing no holds. All in favor of that section and that amount, please raise your hands. Down hands, opposed. Unanimous. Town Clerk's office. Town Clerk's salary, $59,800. Certification compensation, $1,000. Town Clerk support staff, $31,869. Town Clerk expense, $7,837. Election and registration, $7,000. Election support staff, $5,440, bringing the total for the Town Clerk's office to $112,946 from raise and appropriate. Hearing no holds, all in favor of that section, please raise your hands. Down hands. Opposed? Unanimous. Next section. Accountant auditor contract, $73,032. Reserved, nothing. Account expenses, $10,000. Treasurer tax collector contract, $89,842. Certification compensation, $1,000. Treasurer support staff, $44,960. Treasurer tax collector expenses, $42,200. Bringing the total for the accountant and tax and treasurer's office to $261,034 from raise and appropriate. Hearing no holds, all in favor of that section and that total, please raise your hands. Down hands. Opposed? Passes, not unanimous. Selectman's office. Selectman stipend, $3. Selectman admin assistant, $45,646. Selectman expenses, $9,500. Town administrator contract, $144,711. Town administrator expenses, $5,200. Computers and technology maintenance, $32,000. Memorial Day, $625. Town buildings, $6,500. Building supplies, $6,000. Town custodial services, $30,045. Facilities management stipend, $5,200. Town council, $85,000. Town reports, $1,200. Bringing the total for the selectman's office to $371,630 from raise and appropriate. Hearing no holds, all in favor of that section and that total, please raise your hands. Down hands. Opposed? It passes, not unanimous. Board of Health. Health stipend, $3. Health support staff, $50,488. Health expenses, $3,047. Bringing the total for the Board of Health Department to $53,538 from raise and appropriate. Hearing no holds. All in favor of that section and that total, please raise your right hands. Down hands, opposed. Passes, not unanimous. Public Works. Highway Superintendent, $96,262. Public Works Administrative Assistant, $23,227. Highway, Parks, and Grounds labor, $265,870. General Highway, $105,390. Equipment and maintenance, $8,000. Cemetery Department, $3,515. Reserve, nothing. Snow and Ice, $65,000. Transfer Station, $139,475. Transfer Station staff, $63,914. Bringing the total for Public Works Department to $770,653. Hearing no holds, all in favor of that amount from raise and appropriate for that section? You're ahead of me. Thank you. Down hands, opposed? Passes not unanimous. Okay, for protection of personal property. Animal Inspector, $3,650. Reserved, nothing. Reserved, nothing. Tree Warden salary, $12,286. Tree Warden expense, $11,044. And PWS well monitoring, $10,000. Bringing the total for protection of personal property to $36,980. Hearing no holds, all in favor of that amount for that section from raise and appropriate, please raise your hands. Down hands, opposed? Passes not unanimous. Building Department, Building Inspector, $24,090. Department Administrative Assistant, $35,878. Plumbing and Gas Inspector, $12,000. Wiring Inspector, $18,000. Zoning Enforcement, $21,748. Department Expenses, $1,800. Bringing the total for the Building Department section to $113,516. Hearing no holds, all in favor of that total amount for Building Department, please raise your hands. Down hands, opposed? Unanimous. For Fire and EMS Services, Fire Chief Contract, $131,969. Fire Clerical Assistance, $12,500. Fire EMS Expenses, $67,500. EMS Medical Supplies, $20,000. Fire EMS Salaries, $926,194.
Hold.
Fire EMS Equipment and Repair, $22,000. Fire Vehicle Fuel and Maintenance, $54,000. There was a hold on line 510, Fire and EMS Salaries.
Yes, please. I move that the town vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $52,793 transferred from free cash, the sum of $598,401, and transferred from the ambulance fund the sum of $275,000 for a total of $926,194. The first was raise and appropriate, the second was from free cash, and the third was from the ambulance.
Okay, so just so you understand, so this, our accountant has moved different amounts coming from 3 different sources to make up this total, so let me go over that. Out of that total, which hasn't changed, the $926,194, $52,793 will be raised and appropriate. From free cash to be $598,401, and from the ambulance fund, the remaining $275,000. So first we will vote on the motion to change the sources of those funds in the second. All in favor of the accountant's motion to take this amount from the 3 salaries, three sections, please raise your right hand. Down hands, opposed. Okay, that's unanimous. Okay, so now that we know the funding sources, we're back to the line itself. Are there any other holds on that line? Hearing none. All in favor of the section for fire and EMS services totaling $1,234,163 from various sources as explained, please raise your hands. Down hands, opposed. Unanimous. For police services, police chief contract, $136,645. Police salaries, $1,288,326. Police admin assistant and executive info coordinator, $55,139. Lead officer, the former DARE, $2,500. Police services and expenses, $123,520. And for motor vehicles, $57,850. Hearing no holds, all in favor of the total police services budget of $1,663,980 from raise and appropriate, please raise your hands. Down hands, opposed. Unanimous. Utilities. Town fiber, voice over internet protocol, and PD building utilities, $56,726. Town building utilities, $58,000. Fire building utilities, $20,350. Hearing no holds, all in favor of the utilities portion of the budget at $135,076 from raise and appropriate, please raise your hands. Down hands, opposed. Not unanimous, but it passes. For emergency dispatch services, $200,000. Hearing no holds, all in favor of emergency dispatch at $200,000, please raise your hands. Down hands, opposed. Unanimous. For veterans section, veterans agent, $10,175. Veterans administration, $850. Veterans benefits, $45,000. Bringing the total for the Veterans Department to $56,025 from raise and appropriate. Hearing no holds, all in favor of that section at that total, please raise your hands. Down hands, opposed. Unanimous. Library director, $85,000. Library support staff, $47,304. Library expenses, $62,681. For a total for the library of $194,985 from raise and appropriate. Hearing no holds, all in favor of that section at that total, please raise your hands. Thank you. Down hands, opposed. Unanimous. Local schools, elementary school costs, $4,430,000. Hearing no holds, all in favor of the total local school budget at $4,430,000, please raise your hands. Down hands, opposed. Unanimous. Regional schools. Regional school assessment, $3,164,642. Debt and interest for the regional school, $136,301. Hearing no holds, all in favor of the total regional school budget at $3,300,943 from raise and appropriate, please raise your hands. Down hands, opposed. Unanimous. The last section, the reserve fund, $154,000. Interest, loans, and refunds, $3,000. Principal and interest, nothing. Debt exclusion, $56,307. Police station debt, $148,725.
Hold.
Okay, we have a hold for that line number 825, police station debt. Yes, ma'am.
I move that the town vote to transfer from capital stabilization the sum of $148,725 for line 825 police station debt.
So there's been a motion and a second to take that money for police station debt of $148,725 from capital stabilization. Are there any questions or comments about that?
Does that make me two-thirds? No, it's a special purpose.
Special purpose fund, got it. Okay. So for the motion to take that money from capital stabilization, may I see a show of hands in favor, please? Opposed? One, so passes, not unanimous. So that was for the motion to where we take the money for line 825. So now for the total for RF interest, P&I, and debt exclusion of $362,032. All in favor, please raise your hands. Down hands. Opposed? Passes, not unanimous. We did it. We just passed our total budget for FY '26 at $307,882. Very good. You guys are trying to beat last year's record for getting out of here. Article 5. See if the town will vote to appropriate or reserve from the community preservation estimated annual revenues in the amounts recommended by the Community Preservation Committee for committee administrative expenses, community preservation projects, and other expenses in fiscal year 2026, with each item to be considered a separate appropriation. So, appropriation from FY26 estimated revenues for the committee administrative expenses, $5,000. From reserves, FY 2026 estimated revenues for historic resources reserve, $10,000. From FY 2026 estimated revenues for community housing reserve, $10,000. From FY 2026 estimated revenues for open space reserve, $10,000. From FY 2026 estimated revenues for budgeted reserve, $65,000, or take any other action relative thereto.
Mr. Moderator, I move the article as printed in the warrant.
Do I have a second? Article's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Questions or comments?
Mr. Moderator, this is the annual housekeeping article as required by Community Preservation Act law, which mandates that communities put a certain amount in various categories along the way, something we pass every year. Somewhat relatedly, I might mention that the articles coming up for projects to be funded, those are CPA dollars that have already been collected. That is, voting for those articles is not raising additional funds from citizens. And if I might brag a little, as chair of the Community Preservation Committee, we've been pretty frugal and really careful and looked for bang for your dollars, big bang for your dollar projects, and out of that we have healthy balances in all of these.
Thank you for explaining that, Mr. Russo. Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, all in favor of Article 5, please raise your hand. Down hands. Opposed? Unanimous. You didn't raise your hand for opposed, right? No, I don't think so. No. Article 6. To see if the town will vote to transfer the sum of $50,000, of which $30,000 will come from the open space reserve and $20,000 from the undesignated fund balance of the Community Preservation Fund, for the acquisition of land for open space, including areas important to preserving groundwater, community wells and aquifers, as well as land for recreational use and affordable housing, as those terms are defined in the Community Preservation Act, CPA, and specifically for costs likely to be incurred in connection with the transfer, donation, or acquisition of such land, including technical assistance and pre-acquisition costs, such as title search, appraisals, wetland delineation, survey, etc., with such sums to be expended by the Plympton Open Space Committee, consistent with the town's open space plan as described in the Plympton Open Space Committee's Community Preservation Act funding application. Provided, however, that the Open Space Committee shall report to the Community Preservation Committee not less than every 2 months or sooner as may be requested, And further, that any funds remaining shall be returned to the Community Preservation Fund by vote of the Plympton Community Preservation Committee, or take any other action relative thereto. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Moderator, I move the article as printed in the warrant.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Article 6 has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion or comment? Yes, ma'am.
It's not a discussion except that we can't hear anyone up there. We can't hear anything.
Okay, thank you. So can the area 58 people, you have to speak into the microphone. Seeing no hands and nobody wanting to discuss, all in favor of Article 6, please raise your hand. Down, hands opposed. Unanimous. Article 7. Can you hear me okay back there? Okay. Well, I'm not speaking perfectly, so that's probably why. To see if the town will vote to transfer the care, custody, and control of a portion of the town land located at 248 Main Street, identified as Assessor's Map ID 17-2-15, and believed to be more particularly described in whole or in part in that deed recorded with the Plymouth County Registry of Deeds in Book 35878, page 39. Such portion is being depicted as a, quote, recreation-only area by sketch lines drawn on a plan entitled Existing Conditions Plan, Plympton Fire Headquarters, 5 Palmer Road, Plympton, Massachusetts, dated March 14, 2023, prepared by Grady Consulting, LLC, a copy of which has been placed on file with the town clerk, from the Board of Library Trustees for library purposes to the Library Trustees and Board of Selectmen for the purpose of recreational use, as that purpose is defined in General Law, Chapter 44B, Section 2, and to permanently dedicate said land to such purpose, and further to see if the town will vote to transfer the sum of $65,000 from the undesignated fund balance of the Community Preservation Fund to be used by the Plympton Library as described in an application submitted to the Plympton Community Preservation Committee for the design and construction of an outdoor patio seating on said recreational use area. Said project to be directed and supervised by the Plympton Public Library's librarian and Board of Trustees, with reporting oversight purposes to the Plympton Community Preservation Committee, not less than every 2 months or sooner as may be requested, and further that any funds remaining shall be returned to the budgeted reserve of the Community Preservation Fund by the vote of the Community Preservation Committee, or take any other action relative thereto. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Moderator, I move the article as printed in the warrant.
And a second? Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Article 7 has been moved and seconded. Any discussion or comments? Yes. Please come to the microphone. Are you speaking? Okay. If you want to speak, you can come up. Anyone else? Okay, this vote requires a 2/3 vote. So, all in favor of Article 7 as printed in the warrant and read by me, please raise your hand.
Yes.
Down, hands opposed.
Yes, yes.
I declare a 2/3 majority. I declare a 2/3 majority that passes. Article 8, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate or transfer from available funds the sum of $38,000 to conduct financial audits for fiscal year 2026, or take any other action relative thereto.
Mr. Moderator,
Yes.
I move the article as printed in the warrant with a funding source of raise and appropriate.
So if you couldn't hear the beginning of that before he pulled the mic close, he moved the article as printed, but with the funding source specified as raised and appropriate. Do I have a second? Article's been moved and seconded. Any discussion or questions? Seeing none, all in favor of Article 8, please raise your hands. Down, hands opposed. Unanimous. Article 9, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate or transfer from the Capital Stabilization Fund the the sum of $30,569 to make annual lease payments as part of lease purchase programs previously authorized, as shown below, or take any other action relative thereto. And these items will be the Highway Department truck at $17,462, and the police tasers lease package at $17,107.
Mr. Moderator,
Yes.
I move the article as printed in the warrant with a funding source of capital stabilization.
Article's been moved with this funding source of capital stabilization fund. Do I have a second? Article's been moved and seconded. Any discussion or comments? Seeing none, all in favor of Article 9, please raise your hand. Down hand. Opposed? Passes not unanimous. Article 10. To see if the town will vote to repurpose the unexpended balance of funds in the amount of $7,542.88 appropriated pursuant to Article 9 at the May 15, 2024 annual town meeting for the purpose of providing matching funds for the 2024 and 2025 FEMA AFG grants for the replacement of portable radios and to replace forestry hose and equipment respectively, or take any other action relative thereto.
Mr. Moderator, I move the article as printed in the warrant.
Your name and address, please.
Cheryl Duddy, 34 Maple Street. And just a point of clarification, this is money that we expended last year for matching funds for a grant that we did not receive. We rewrote the grant, and so now it would be split in two as matching funds for two different grants.
Okay. Thank you, Chief. Do I have a second for this motion? Motion's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? So this is taking some money that we appropriated last year for something that didn't get used and using it for two different things in the same tenor that we did last year. All in favor of Article 10, please raise your hands. Down hands. Opposed? Unanimous. Article 11. To see if the town will vote to transfer from available funds the sum of $10,000 to be added to the town buildings and maintenance emergency article, as voted pursuant to Article 4 at the June 17, 2020 special town meeting, or take any other action relative thereto.
Mr. Moderator,
Yes.
I move the article as printed in the warrant with a funding source of raise and appropriate.
Article's been moved and seconded with a funding source of raise and appropriate. So here we're taking some money that was voted to be spent back in 2020. Any discussion or comments about this? Seeing none, all in favor of Article 11, please raise your hands. Down hands. Opposed? Passes. Not unanimous. I'll just say passes unless it's unanimous. Article 12. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate or transfer from available funds the sum of $46,500 to be added to the Information Technology and Equipment article, as voted pursuant to Article 30 at the May 18, 2022 annual town meeting, for the purchase and installation of information technology equipment, including upgrading outdated security software and hardware and equipment, including anything incidental or related thereto, or take any other action relative thereto.
Mr. Moderator, I move the article as printed in the warrant with a funding source of raise and appropriate.
Article's been moved and seconded with the funding source from raise and appropriate. Again, we're taking money that we appropriated at a previous town meeting and repurposing it. Any discussions or questions? It's not really repurposing.
No, we're raising and appropriating it. It's not previously.
Oh, I see. The fund was, I'm sorry, thank you for correcting me. The fund was created back in 2022. Thank you. All in favor of Article 12, please raise your hand. Down hands. Opposed? Passes. Article 13. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate, transfer from available funds, or borrow a sum of money for the purpose of designing, building, furnishing, and equipping a new fire station building to be located at Palmer Road, Town Center Complex, to the rear of existing police station located at 7 Palmer Road, street number for new fire station to be determined, and all costs incidental or related thereto, and to meet this appropriation, authorize the treasurer, with the approval of the Board of Selectmen, to borrow said sum under General Laws, Chapter 44, Sections 7 or 8, or any other enabling authority, and to issue bonds or notes of the town therefore, and to authorize the Board of Selectmen to execute all documents and/or agreements necessary to effectuate the purposes of this vote, provided, however, that such vote shall be contingent upon approval of a debt exclusion question at the annual election to exclude the amounts necessary to pay the principal and interest on the debt from the provisions of Proposition 2.5, or take any other action relative thereto.
Mr. Moderator, John Williamson, 255 Main Street. I would move that the town appropriate the sum of $13,166,000 for the purpose of designing, building, furnishing, and equipping a new fire station building to be located at Palmer Road, Town Center Complex, to the rear of the existing police station located at 7 Palmer Road. Street number for the new fire station be determined, including all costs incidental or related thereto, and to meet this appropriation, authorize the treasurer, with the approval of the Board of Selectmen, to borrow said sum under General Law, Chapter 44, Section 7 or 8, or any other enabling authority, and to issue bonds or notes of the town therefore, and to authorize the Board of Selectmen to execute all documents and/or agreements necessary to effectuate the purpose of this vote, provided, however, that such vote shall not take effect until the town votes to exempt from the limitation on total taxes imposed by General Law, Chapter 59, Section 21C, Proposition 2.5, amounts required to pay the principal of and interest on the borrowing authorized by this vote.
Thank you, Mr. Williamson. I have a second.
Second.
That the article be moved and seconded with an amount of $13,166,000. Discussion. You want to make an explanation?
Mr. Moderator, thank you.
You need to speak up.
Okay, well, our existing fire station was built over 50 years ago to house a small call fire department. Since that time, we have seen the department grow and adapt to meet the current demands and needs of our town and its residents. The size of the fire apparatus have nearly doubled in the last 50 years, and it is not anticipated that they will be getting any smaller. And since these apparatus carry water, foam, and/or medicines, they are all required to be kept in a climate-controlled environment. Our current building is bursting at the seams and will not be able to physically accommodate a replacement to Ambulance A2 when that needs to be done in a few years. When fighting fires today, our firefighters are presented with significantly more complex hazards than they were 50 years ago. The wide variety of building materials that they are exposed to during a fire greatly increases the need for cleaning of their gear and themselves post-event, and the space to safely do it in. We simply do not have that space in the current building, and we are not providing them with the tools to keep them safe. Today, unlike 50 years ago, we have a comprehensive EMS, advanced life support service, with 2 ambulances that require climate-controlled storage. Our own EMS service has an impressive response times thanks to 24-hour on-site staffing. Also, the increasing volume of mutual aid responses provides additional revenue for the department that helps offset the costs associated with this service. At the last town meeting, we committed to complete design and construction documents, bid documents, and site testing for a purpose-built, multi-bay, up-to-code, safe, and modern facility. We also committed to solicit actual bids for a new station and to bring town meeting a specific cost for this facility. For those of you who attended or viewed one of our public information sessions or viewed information online, you will know that the construction cost for the station, including contingency, is $11,795,000, which was lower than estimated thanks to a competitive bid process. The total project cost, including the already completed design, development, and bidding, project management expenses, and other expenses, including items like IT, telephony, utility mitigation, shelving, and furniture, is $14,285,000. This translates into a cost per 1,000 valuation of 88 cents, which for the average household property valued at $532,000 would be an annual cost impact of $468.95, or $117.24 quarterly. I cannot tell you for sure what a new station would cost next year, or the year after, or the year after that, but I can assure you that it will cost more than this one. As a town, we have been looking at this issue for over a decade, and this committee has been actively engaged for the last 3 years on your behalf to bring this proposal to town meeting this evening. I'm personally asking for your support tonight and on Saturday at the town election so that we can provide our fire personnel with the right tools and space to operate safely and efficiently so that they can continue to be there for us when we need them. Thank you for your attention, and through you, Mr. Moderator, happy to entertain questions.
Thank you, Mr. Williamson. So this motion has been made and seconded, and you heard an explanation. Is there any discussion? If you want to say something or ask a question, you need to come up to the microphone.
I just want to tell you, sir, the acoustics are terrible in this room. We cannot hear anything.
Yeah.
We can't hear. These are important decisions that are being made. We just want to be able to hear it clearly.
Right. Okay, so is it a problem with hearing me or that microphone there?
I think it's the actual microphone acoustics itself.
Mr. Moderator,
The AC.
Yes.
why don't we use this mic and just repeat it?
Okay. Mr. Williamson, would you be willing to do that? We use this microphone over here that seems to be working well. Thank you. Yeah. So,
Well, this is a little more intimidating. Is this better? All right. Let's try again. All right, folks. Our existing fire station was built over 50 years ago to house a small call fire department. Since that time, we have seen the department grow and adapt to meet the current demands and needs of our town and its residents. The size of fire apparatus have nearly doubled in the last 50 years, and it's not anticipated that they will be getting any smaller. And since these apparatus carry water, foam, and/or medicine, they are all required to be kept in a climate-controlled environment. Our current building is bursting at the seams and will not be able to physically accommodate a replacement ambulance to A2 to replace ambulance A2 when that needs to be done in a few years. When fighting fires today, our firefighters are presented with significantly more complex hazards than they were 50 years ago. The wide variety of building materials they are exposed to during a fire greatly increases their need for cleaning of their gear and themselves post-event, and the space to safely do it in. We simply do not have the space in the current building, and we are not providing them with the tools to keep them safe. Today, unlike 50 years ago, we have a comprehensive EMS advanced life support service with 2 ambulances that require climate-controlled storage. Our own EMS service has impressive response times thanks to 24-hour on-site staffing. Also, the increasing volume of mutual aid responses provides additional revenue for the department that helps to offset the costs associated with this service. At the last town meeting, we committed to complete design and construction documents, bid documents, and site testing for a purpose-built, multi-bay, up-to-code, safe, and modern facility. We also committed to solicit actual bids for a new station and to bring town meeting a specific cost for this new facility. For those of you who attended or viewed one of our public information sessions or viewed the information online, you will know that construction costs for this station, including contingency, came out to be $11,795,000, which was lower than estimated thanks to a competitive bidding process. The total project cost, including the already completed design and development and bidding, project management expenses, and other expenses, including IT, telephony, utility mitigation, shelving, and furniture, is $14,285,000. This translates into a cost per $1,000 valuation of 88 cents, which for the average household property value of $532,000 would be an annual cost impact of $468.95 or $117.24 quarterly. I cannot tell you for sure what a new station would cost next year or the year after or the year after that, but I can assure you it will cost more than this one. As a town, we've been looking at this issue for over a decade, and this committee has been actively engaged for the last 3 years on your behalf to bring this proposal to town meeting this evening. I'm personally asking you for your support tonight, and on Saturday at the town election so that we can provide our fire personnel with the right tools and the space to operate safely and efficiently so they can continue to be there for us when we need them. I thank you for your attention. I appreciate doing this twice. Hopefully this one was a better one. And I'm happy to entertain any questions through you, Mr. Moderator.
Thank you again, Mr. Williamson. Okay, so also to help, we just had the AC turned off, so that might make it easier to hear back there. Yes, sir.
Yes. James Ruxton, 34 Spring Street. I just want you people to know, I do know the fire department needs an upgrade. I was a firefighter for approximately 15 years.
Speak into the mic, please.
Okay, sorry if you can't hear me. One concern I have is the safety of the location of the building, okay? It's gonna be, like you said, be to the left-hand side of the police station. You're gonna have trucks leaving, you're gonna have people responding to the situation, and they're gonna come in a little fast, believe me. I used to be a firefighter. You're gonna be on a downward grade coming out onto the main drag. You have a 10-wheeler that's probably 50, 60,000 pounds. You get down to that bottom grade, I don't know how many people here have experience driving a 10-wheeler. They do not churn. And if it's wet, slippery, ice, you're gonna have a problem. Someone's gonna get hurt. Believe me, I was in the 10-wheeler one day, I went to make a turn on a flat surface. I didn't think I was gonna make it. That's one of my concerns, safety, and you might have police and fire responding, etc. Another thing is, if you put that building where you have it located, any person driving into this town that's not familiar with this town, has some kind of crisis, they're not gonna see it. You have it hidden. You go to any other town, you name the town, Bridgewater, Plymouth, Kingston, you name the towns. Their safety buildings, fire station, police, are out on a main drag where they can be seen. I think that's a big safety concern. But they do need an upgrade. I admit that very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further comments or questions?
Hi, my name is Michelle Rothfuss. I live on 20 Montello Street.
Speak it right into the mic. I'm sorry.
I don't have a lot.
I can hear you, but no one else can.
Get closer? This? Okay. My name's Michelle Rothfuss. I live on 20 Montello Street in Plympton. My question is, you plan on, if this goes through, our tax rate is going to go up again. My question is it going up every year, that percentage, until this thing is paid off? Or is this a one-time deal? Or are you going to say, like, 2 years down the road, oh, I'm sorry, we didn't, raise enough, we're going to raise your taxes again? I mean, because you keep raising them and I don't see anything really going on. So what I want to know, is this a one-time deal, or is it going to be happening to us every year for the next 30 years when this, if it goes through, is paid off?
Thank you. Would someone like to address that question?
John Williamson, 255 Main Street. If you can't hear me, yell again, and I'll talk even louder. To that question, what we are borrowing is a fixed amount that we're paying each year. So, what you pay in your taxes has variables and has to do with assessments and things like that. But we are not going to be coming back and asking for another million, another $2 million for this station. We have gone through this process to come in with bids, an actual bid for the station, so that we're not going out with estimates to then go out and bid and find that we have more. So this is a fixed payment that we will be paying each year. We will be assessing on that fixed payment each year. Does that answer partially? No.
Please.
And the bond, it will be a 30-year bond.
Please, no side conversation. Please come back up and clarify so everyone can hear your question, because these questions are important. We all have them.
Okay, so it's a 30-year bond. Our values go up. So how often do you do it here? How often do you assess property here
Don't
in
look at me.
Plympton?
Assessor? Is there an assessor here?
Every year.
Every year.
Every year. So every year you assess a property. So first we're going to have this assessment, our tax rate going up. So then what you can do is say, oh, well, your value went up again, so our taxes are going to go up again to pay for this. So like year after year, I feel like we're going to be, you know, taxed out of this town because of this. So that's my thing.
Thank you for your comment.
Okay.
Yes, name and address. Name and street address, please.
Can you hear? Okay. Lisa Hart, 7 Maria Lane Drive. So this is yes, your taxes, whether we do this or not, may go up years. Everything's costing much more money, and we try and keep our budget as lean as possible. But as far as the fire station, that is a debt exclusion. It's one amount that will be assessed, like, say $100. Every year it would be $100. That amount will not change. Your taxes may go up to cover the schools or to cover other things in the town, but they will not be raised to pay for the fire station. That amount is fixed.
So if I can clarify.
And after 30 years, it goes away.
So if we so if we borrow the 14 million at 4.5%, which is what the numbers were done at, that is an annual payment of roughly $860,000 each year. The next year it will be $860,000. The year after that will be $860,000. So it's a big house, but yes. So it's that amount isn't changing. So then depends if we add new growth to town, then the impact on each individual could theoretically go down. But that number isn't going to change year over year. It's a set amount within $5,000 to $7,000 based on how the interest is calculated.
Thank you,
and we will
Mr.
pay that for 30 years.
Thank you,
And
Mr.
can I respond to the other gentleman's comment just real quick?
Yes, you may.
One of the things as part of this project is we would make changes to that entrance that we currently have for the police station to be more straightening it out and also to significantly increase the visibility of that entrance. The hill's still going to be there, so I can't change that.
Thank you, Mr. Williamson. Any other comments or questions? Yes, sir.
Hello. Mark Rothfuss, 20 Montello Street.
Yeah, you gotta speak right into
Mark
this.
Rothfuss, 20 Montello Street. I followed this since I moved here very closely. I've gone to a lot of meetings. I've looked at everything online. So I feel fairly educated. I come from an analytical background, engineering, and one thing I haven't seen as part of this, unless I missed it, I doubt it. And understand, I have all due respect for our police and fire, and I had a personal tour by the last chief. I stopped in one day and I got a close-up look. So I truly understand the need. And you are going to be the first people that I will look up to if I obviously have a problem. So a lot of respect there. Thank you. But I didn't see a lot of comparison. I would have loved to have seen over the last few years alternatives. I mean, it's 2025. We can modify just about anything. And I know there's these rules about 50%. If you touch 50% of a building, it's not feasible to renew it or rehab it. But certainly, I haven't seen that comparative to knock out walls, to add a second level, exhaust systems, whatever it takes. I just haven't seen that comparative analysis. I just want to state that. And as far as overall cost, some people online were saying, oh, it's, think of it as, I don't know how much per year per household, but I'll throw it out there. I'm paying almost $11,000 a year in taxes. So the benefit, yeah, I think the benefit's fantastic, but I just don't want any more taxes. I'm paying close to $11,000 a year right now. So thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Corey McRail, 55 Brook Street. It was said that this has been an ongoing thing for 10 years. I was just curious, has there been any other locations thought of or any other options besides this one ever brought to town meeting?
Thank you. Wait, before you go, so does somebody want to discuss, address that question? Have there been other places looked for, sites looked for? I mean, I know the answer.
John Williamson, 255 Main Street. I think Ross might have been able to do that, but I'll do it.
Okay.
Yes, so we looked at other locations. We had a study done 10 years ago that was the kickoff study that looked at multiple locations. We, as a committee, looked at locations including Maple Street, Center Street, as well as the town complex. We considered both where the existing station is now and also the current proposed location. So yes, we did look at that.
Thank you for clarifying that. Yes, sir.
Ross McPherson, 6 Forest Street. To give some context to my comments, I've been in construction engineering for the last almost 20 years. Specifically, my field is value engineering, which is kind of a fancy way of saying make something do what it needs to do, but do it cheaper. I've worked on everything up to the second largest building on the planet, which is a Tesla factory in Austin, Texas. So I can tell you from a renovation perspective, the first thing we're going to have to do before we attempt to renovate that station is build a temporary station to work out of, because we cannot work out of a station that's under construction. The town of Greenfield did that 5 years ago for a similar sized station. It cost $2 million to rent a station while they did the work. That would probably be $3 million today. The other problem we have is that that station, to put that programmatic functions in that space, we're going to start to either take out the parking lot or the ball fields, which would require its own mitigation to either relocate one of those two things. So in reality, yes, I agree, renovating a station does sound like an easier ask, but in reality, it's probably as expensive, if not more, and if we get as expensive, we're getting less for our dollars in terms of programmatic space.
Thank you.
Brennan Laporte, County Road, and
House number, please.
Pardon?
House number?
92.
Thank you.
Sorry. So I work with fire departments almost every day. I'm in the fire protection industry, so I understand a lot of their struggles that have been brought up. My concern would be similar to the lady that was up a couple moments ago. Is there other alternatives, whether it be building more parking spaces for the apparatus or building on the back side of the building and then conjoining them after the new construction has been completed? There's been other money shifted around for purchasing public space, and they rezoned another area recently to accept more state money. And one of the reasons that we purchased in Plympton was because of the small town. Now, with the town changing, obviously, as time goes on, things need to change and adapt. However, it seems like in the past several years, everything's radically starting to change. So the concern would be with a rapid changing landscape, is it really necessary to encourage it, I suppose? And is that what everyone actually wants? So I understand that a new station is needed. Yes, they need to house the equipment. Yes, they need to take care of it. And as being one of the townspeople who, as we all live here, we all own the equipment, really. So yes, we want them to take care of it. Yes, we want it housed. Yes, we want our firefighters, EMS, and police to be safe. However, is there an alternative?
Thank you.
John Williamson, 255 Main Street.
Yes, sir.
Getting my exercise tonight.
Good.
We have looked at alternatives. That is why this process in depth with this committee started over 3 years ago. When we built the police station, we did work looking at the fire station as well. And so we've considered adding on to the front of the bays to try and give more space. We looked at adding on to the back of the bays. In that instance, you start encroaching on the ball fields, which then causes you additional costs there. Ross spoke to the issues of renovation and the cost associated with that. It's likely if we renovated this building, we would have to start from scratch. So yes, we've looked at the alternatives, we've looked for the most cost-effective, and the building that we're proposing tonight is designed for the next 50 years. It's designed programmatically to meet everything that we need to make sure that we can grow into this and that we're not going to have an issue in 20 years needing to make an addition to the building because we didn't think that through. So I certainly understand folks have not been as close to it as those of us on the committee, but we've looked at alternatives and we believe this is the best alternative for us right now with the best deal that we can get. I understand it's a lot of money. I understand that the taxes are going to go up, and I wish I could wave a wand for that. And we will certainly get any grants that we can for the types of items that we can get grants for, but they don't have them for whole station construction. It'd be for items within the station.
Thank you, Mr. Williams.
Cheryl Duddy, 34 Maple Street, the fire chief. So this project, I think, goes beyond just the brick and mortar of the building. It's not just about making more space for our apparatus, despite the fact that we are out and we truly cannot replace our aging and unreliable ambulance. It was built in 2013. It was underpowered and undersized then, and it's certainly becoming more unreliable. Thankfully, we can replace that without any cost to the taxpayers through the ambulance account. However, it doesn't make any sense to do so because once we do, we'll have to move another piece of apparatus outside. Currently, Brush Breaker 184 sits outside and has for the last few years, and just recently it's cost us thousands of dollars to keep that on the road due to being housed on Center Street this winter that was exceptionally cold, and it also ended up with a pretty substantial mice infestation. Additionally, the space in the building is going to include not only, as John Williamson brought up, space for decontamination, but a modern fire station requires all living space to have a warm zone, if you will, between the garage and where the gear is stored to reduce cancer rates. Firefighters have been found to have a 14% higher rate of cancer than the general public. And that's not only just because of what we're exposed to when we're on the calls, but consistently when we're in the stations, our gear, even after being washed, will continue to off-gas, as well as our current station. It picks up the diesel particulates from the trucks every time they're started. We put that gear on, and then we continue to breathe in those diesel particulates that are on our gear. So our gear is actually what's one of the many things that's causing that increased cancer rate among firefighters. A modern station allows a warm zone so that the garage contaminants, the gear contaminants, don't end up in the living space. So it's not just about the brick and mortar. It's not just about making enough room for our trucks to fit. It's about protecting the men and women that show up every day to help the citizens of the town. Thank you.
Thank you. Please hold your applause so we can get through, and everybody who wants to speak can speak. Yes, sir.
Mr. Moderator, Steve Silva, your former fire chief. I was the chief before Cheryl, who I must add is doing a wonderful job. We started this journey when I was there, going to figure out, what do we do? We've heard a lot tonight about planning. We've heard a lot tonight about site selection. We've heard a lot tonight about the cost of this station. And I think the chief very eloquently talked about the cost of the safety and welfare of your firefighters and paramedics. So I don't think there's a debate in any way, shape, or form on whether or not the town of Plympton needs a new fire station. And I would like to go on record as saying the station that is proposed is an adequate station. You may think it looks fancy, you may think it has a lot of entities and amenities that you might not think we need, but I assure you, I absolutely assure you, it was well thought through. It's not too big, it's not too small. I sound like Goldilocks, don't I? But the fact of the matter is, it comes down to this. Do we need a station? Yes. Is this station the station we need? Probably is. It's as simple as this. What do you want to pay? And that's all I have to say. It's a very simple equation. Do you want to buy this or not? Thank you.
Thank you, sir. hold that, no applause.
Alex Ritter, 121 Main Street. Just curious, if this goes through, what's the plan with the current building after it gets decommissioned?
Thank you.
John Williamson, 255 Main Street. The current thoughts on that, we don't have a specific plan yet because, one, we haven't approved a new fire station, but our thoughts on that this would be a perfect building to do reuse for a community center / senior center. Given its location by the ball fields, the library, you know, it is a nice space when you do the pancake breakfast there in December, and it's got some nice sort of flexible space that we could use. And we do think that we would need to look at that and, of course, get it all figured out if that's the way we go. But we think that it could be used largely in its existing format, at least for a few years, until we have the opportunity to do some minor adjustments. Maybe a coat of paint would be nice, but you know, the building isn't a bad 50-year-old fire station. It's just a 50-year-old fire station which has sort of outlived its current program, but we think we could have other use for the community.
Thank you. Yes, please get up.
I'm Carolyn DeCristofano, 198 Main Street. I just want to say that I'm strongly in favor of this. I've watched the process over the last 10 years. I've attended public information sessions, I've attended town meeting, and I trust the Finance Committee, the Properties Committee, the Board of Selectmen to have gone over this with a fine-tooth comb. And in addition, this committee has been accountable to the town as they meet pretty much bi-monthly most of the year and have had ample opportunity for input and have responded to that input. I know that it's frustrating to see taxes go up, but that's sort of what happens across the board in every town and every city in the United States. And I just don't think that this is the issue to nickel and dime the town. If you think of the cost of replacing your home, or the cost of insurance, or the cost of disability for any firefighters whom we could have protected, but might choose not to if we don't vote this in, economically it makes sense, and I think ethically it makes sense. I don't think any single one of us would want to go to an employer's office and find out that they didn't have the tools for us to do our job properly, and that they knew of risks to our health in a serious way, and because of the bottom line, opted out of protecting us. So I hope people will take all that into consideration.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Brian Carr. Brian Carr, 24 Buttonwood. I rise in favor primarily of the fire station and particularly the pancake breakfasts. I can definitely attest to that. Through the moderator, though, my only challenge here is Article 13, as I saw. It doesn't have a stopgap. It has no dollar figure in it where
No,
it doesn't. I'm sorry.
When it was moved, there was a dollar figure added to it at 13 million.
That's great. Thank you very much.
166,000.
I missed that. Thank you very much. See you at the breakfast.
Anyone else?
Mr. Moderator?
Yes, sir.
John Trainer, 62 Crescent Street. I'm on the Town Properties Committee as well as being a selectman in town. We've had 46 meetings on this project over the last 3 years. We've gone out and visited fire stations, Sandwich, Mattapoisett, Onset, John at Harwich. We've done the hard work, I think, and I understand this is a tough decision. Seniors in town to raise the taxes, it's a problem. But this, if we don't do it now, we will have to do it at some point because the state is mandating more and more OSHA rule compliance. And we didn't do it 10 years ago, and we could have probably done it for $7 or $8 million. Now we've got a cost of roughly double that. So we need a 2/3 vote for this to go forward to the ballot on Saturday. And I would love to see it go forward to the ballot, because we have 164 voters in the room tonight. But every time we've done a ballot, you will see 300 or more voters come out when there's a tax implication. I think it's the right thing to do. I support it, and I hope you will too. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Trainer.
Nancy Butler, 49 Maple Street. I support this, and I hope you do too. Most of us, a lot of us, have had to use the firefighters for some reason. I'm asking if you would please vote for this, because when you call 911, they come to meet your needs. Ladies and gentlemen, the fire department is calling 911. They need your help. They need a new station. They need to live and work in safe conditions. So please vote yes, not just tonight, but also Saturday when you go to the polls. Think of our firefighters for their safety when you vote this on Saturday and tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Butler. So one more? Yes.
Hi, I'm Melissa Lunny. I live on 4 Maple Street.
A little bit closer.
Closer?
Yeah.
I'm
Or
kissing
turn
it.
Maybe turn it up. Or maybe turn it up a little bit for you.
Okay, yeah.
Thank you.
I'm wondering, I realize between bushfires, dry seasons, my daughter lives in Montana, fires go crazy out there, and out in California and up in Canada. So I know that not only are you going to need a building, but you're going to need tanker trucks, things like that. That's going to add to the cost that you're not analyzing here. Is that correct?
No, I can answer that for you. No, we already have all the vehicles. In fact, we don't have a place to put them all that we have. The brush breaker's been out for 4 years in the weather.
Okay. The other thing, is it possible to change the location? I
think, okay. So
or you just got to vote on this now.
Okay, first of all, what I wanted to say is that's already been answered.
Yeah,
and the
okay.
locations have been looked at for the last decade is the answer that has been.
And that's the best one you could come up with?
That's what they're saying. I'm not on the committee, ma'am. But that's what they're saying. That's the best after looking at 3 different
Okay.
sites.
Those are my concerns. I realize we need an upgraded fire department. We definitely do.
Thank you. Okay, seeing no other speakers. As was said, this is going to be a 2/3 vote required to pass this tonight, and if it passes tonight, it goes to the ballot on Saturday. So all in favor of Article 13, where we are going to be appropriating $13,166,000 for the reasons described, please raise your hands. Down hands, opposed. I declare it. I'm going to have to ask for a count, colors to count. Put it down. So what this will be, this will be a standing count. We'll have the.
I'm sorry, what?
Oh.
I think so.
All those in favor first. Call to order and revote.
I'm confused.
I'm sorry.
Can we move this to a secret ballot?
Wait, hold on. Right now, we went to a vote. And no, I see no reason for this to be a secret ballot. So, Town Clerk, you're counting the opposed? Okay, so everyone who's opposed, just raise your hands, and Town Clerk will count you.
No.
All those opposed, raise your hand, and Town Clerk will count you. All those in favor, please raise your hands. The vote was 108 in favor and 43 opposed. That's a 2/3 majority. The motion passes tonight. Okay, moving right along. I gave that a lot of run because it's such an important article for us all. Article 14. To see if the town will vote to transfer from Capital Stabilization Fund the sum of $200,000 for road construction, resurfacing, and top coating, including the payment of costs incidental or related thereto, or to take any action relative thereto.
Mr. Moderator, Rob Furlot, 93 Maple Street, Highway Superintendent. I move the article as printed in the warrant with a funding source of capital stabilization.
So the article's been moved with a funding source of capital stabilization. Is there a second? Article's been moved and seconded. You want to speak to this, or?
No.
Yeah, okay. Does anyone want to speak to this article, have any questions or comments? Seeing no hands, all in favor of Article 14, please raise your hand. Down, hands opposed. Unanimous. I'm sorry? Oh, completely forgot about the special, thank you. Okay. Well, it being just a bit after 8 o'clock, we need to go to the special town meeting. See, I gave that article all over. So do I have a motion to recess town meeting for a few minutes while we take care of the special?
So moved.
And second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor of moving to the special town meeting, raise your hands. Down, hands opposed. Yeah, really had no choice. Okay. Special town meeting. So now these are items that are going to affect the current fiscal year that we're in. And please don't go home yet just because you voted for fire. We still have a lot of work to do. Article 1, to see if the town will vote to accept provisions of General Law, Chapter 44, Section 43B, C, and D to allow the town trust funds, including but not limited to the Perpetual Care Fund, to be invested in accordance with General Law, Chapter 203C, the so-called prudent investment rule, or take any other action relative thereto.
Mr. Moderator, I move the article as printed in the warrant.
Do I have a second? Article's been moved and seconded. Any discussion or questions?
Hi, Corey McGrail, 55 Brook Street. Could there be...
I'm sorry, hold on a second. Please quiet down so we can hear. We already know we don't have a good sound system going tonight. Please start over, ma'am.
Corey McGrail, 55 Brook Street. I was just curious if we could have more explanation on what the prudent investment rule is. I have very limited understanding about investing our funds, that there used to be a state list that had to be followed, and I believe that now that this prudent investment rule would make it so that the treasurer has the discretion of where the investments can go. So I was just hoping for more discussion on what actually this entails.
Okay, thank you. Does someone, thank you. Someone want to further explain this prudent investment rule and how it's going to work? Yes.
Yes, Mr. Moderator. Christine Kelly, Treasurer, Collector for the Town of Plympton. When you picked up your warrants, there was an explanation that I posted. All this does is widen the mass legal list. That's it. It's not us having to go, very broad in stocks and mutual funds. It just slightly opens that choice for our advisors to invest so that we get a little better return on it. That's it.
Thank you. Does that answer your question, ma'am? Anyone else? Seeing no hands, all in favor of Article 1, please raise your hand. Down hands opposed. Passes. Do I have a motion for a 5-minute recess?
So moved.
Moved and second. We're going to take a 5-minute recess. Thank you. Article 2. To see if the town will vote to transfer the care, custody, and control of a portion of the town land located at 5 Palmer Road, identified as Assessor's Map ID 17-2-16, and believed to be more particularly described in whole or in part in that deed recorded with the Plymouth County Registry of Deeds in Book 4008, page 405, such portion being depicted as a recreation-only area by sketch lines drawn on a plan entitled Existing Conditions Plan Plympton Fire Headquarters, 5 Palmer Road, Plympton, Massachusetts, dated March 14th, 2023, prepared by Grady Consulting, LLC, a copy of which has been placed on file with the town clerk. From such board or committee currently having custody for such purposes, as it is currently held, to the Board of Selectmen for the purpose of recreational use, as that purpose is defined in General Law, Chapter 44B, Section 2, and so to permanently dedicate such said land to such purpose, and further to see if the town will vote to transfer $42,000 from the undesignated fund balance of the Community Preservation Fund to be used by the Plympton Recreation Committee, as described in an application submitted to the Plympton Community Preservation Committee for the removal and replacement of old outdated fencing and updating the large ball field on said recreational use area, said project to be directed and supervised by the Plympton Recreation Commission, with reporting for oversight purposes to the Plympton Community Preservation Committee not less than every 2 months or sooner as may be requested, and further that any funds remaining shall be returned to the budgeted reserve of the Community Preservation Fund by vote of the Plympton Community Preservation Committee or take any other action relative thereto. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Moderator, I move the article as printed in the warrant.
And second. Article's been moved and second. Any discussion? This is going to require a 2/3 vote to pass. All those in favor of Article 2, please raise your hands. Down hands. Opposed? I declare 2/3. Article 3, to see if the town will vote to transfer from the Rural Aid Grant account the sum of $40,000 to replenish the Special Education Reserve Fund or take any other action relative thereto. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Moderator, Jason Frazier, 66 Maple Street, Chair of the Plympton School Committee. I make a motion to pass over Article 3.
Second. Motion's been made and seconded to pass over the article. Would you please give us an explanation, Mr. Frazier?
Unfortunately, this is going to be a bad news, good news. Wait for the next article. The funding source no longer exists.
Thank you. So the motion is to pass over Article 3. All in favor of passing over, please raise your hands. Down hands. Opposed? It passes. Article 4, to see if the town will vote to transfer from available funds a sum or sums of money to be used to supplement the FY25 elementary school cost budget, line 700, and or fund deficits in any other FY25 budget lines as voted pursuant to Article 4 at the May 14th, 2024 annual town meeting for the remainder of fiscal year 2025 or take any other action relative thereto.
Mr. Moderator, Jason Frazier, 66 Maple Street, chaired the Plympton School Committee. I make a motion to pass over Article 4.
For the same reasons as the previous article, would you please explain why you'd like to pass it?
We realized a budget deficit as early as October of this school year at the Dennett Elementary for a variety of reasons. We worked with our school administration, the school committee, then contacted town leadership, both on the finance committee and board of selectmen and the town manager. And we've worked to manage that budget overage by utilizing funds, including the rural aid grant. And we do not need any additional funds from the town at this time to complete FY25 at the Plympton School Committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Frazier. Is there a second?
I second.
Motion's been moved and seconded to pass over Article 4. All in favor of passing over, please raise your hands. Down, hands opposed. The motion passes to pass over. That concludes the special town meeting. We will now return to the annual town meeting. Article 15, we're on.
You dissolved the special. Yeah.
The special has been dissolved. Thank you. Article 15, to see if the town will vote to accept and expend such sums of money allotted or to be allotted to the town from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts under the provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 90, or any other state roadway reimbursement programs for the fiscal year 2026, and borrow in anticipation of reimbursement such sums as may be available as the state's share of the cost of work, said Chapter 90, or take any other action relative thereto.
Mr. Moderator, Rob Furlot, 93 Maple Street, Highway Superintendent. I move the article as printed in the warrant.
Do I have a second? Article's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of Article 15, please raise your hands. Down, hands. Opposed? Unanimous. Article 16, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate or transfer from available funds the sum of $2,200 for continued bylaw codification and anything incidental or related thereto, or take any other action relative thereto. Do I have a motion? It's been moved. Do I have a second? Motion's been moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Moderator, we need a motion on the funding source.
I'm sorry.
I make a motion, Tara Shaw, 38 Elm Street, move the article as printed in the warrant with the funding source of raise and appropriate.
Thank you. So we're going to raise and appropriate if we pass this. Any discussion? Seeing none. All in favor of Article 16, please raise your hand. Down, hands. Opposed? Unanimous. Article 17, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate or transfer from available funds the sum of $9,000 for the purpose of the fiscal year 2026 real and personal property interim valuation of the town, or take any other action relative thereto.
Mr. Moderator, Ethan Stiles, 85 West Street, member of the Plympton Board of Assessors. I move that the town vote to raise and appropriate or transfer from available funds the sum of $9,000 for the purpose of fiscal year 2026 real and personal property interim valuation of the town, or take any other action relative thereto.
Did you want to specify whether it was raise and appropriate or something else?
Yes, the motion raise and appropriate.
Raise and appropriate.
The motion is to raise and appropriate the $9,000 for the purpose of the interim valuation. Do I have a second? Motion is made and seconded. Any discussion or comments?
Just briefly, Mr. Moderator, we have an article like this in every year's annual town meeting warrant. Essentially, it is what it says. It is we pay a third-party vendor to conduct the valuations every year, and this is for the upcoming fiscal year.
Thank you. Any comments or questions? Seeing none, all in favor of Article 17, please raise your hands. Down, hands. Opposed? It passes. Article 18, to see if the town will vote to amend Chapter 10 of the Town Code, Boards, Committees, and Commissions and Committees by adding a new Article 5 titled Select Board, as shown below, and further to delete the words Board of Selectmen and Selectmen in each place they appear in the Town Code, in both the general and zoning bylaws, and replace them with the words Select Board or take any other action relative thereto. And then printed in your warrant is also the current wording of Article 5. Do I have a motion?
I move, Mr. Moderator, I move the article as printed in the warrant.
Second. Article's been moved and seconded. Any discussions?
Kathy Ferguson, 4 Brook Street. This is an egregious waste of our time. We have talked about this before. It is selectmen. That's the end of it.
Thank you. Yes.
Nancy Denman, 81 Ring Road. I wondered, have you had any complaints about the Board of Selectmen being called the Board of Selectmen over the years?
You're directing that to me?
To you, through them.
Has the board been had any complaints?
John Trainer, 62 Crescent. It comes up once in a while at outside meetings where the former boards of selectmen say, especially when there's women on it, you're still a board of selectmen. So it's not, you ought to change it. It's more of a kind of throwaway comment, surprise. Can I talk, do you want to ask a question? And I'll talk to the issue.
Well, my question...
No side discussions, you come through me.
Right.
Okay.
My question would be, we have had many fine women serve on the Board of Selectmen, and I don't think the terminology has kept anybody from being on the board. Most people with an education realize it's a collective noun. It includes men and women.
Thank you for that comment. I don't think there's a question or an answer, so it needs
But
an answer.
that's just a comment, I guess. So I just thought if there was something specific to our town that had made this come up, but it doesn't sound like it is.
It doesn't sound like there was, no.
I agree that I
So
thought
let
it
me
was
go
kind of
first.
I thought it was put in for comic relief was my...
No, thank you, Mrs. Denman. Are there any other comments?
Mr. Moderator? So I'm the sponsor of this article. I tried to get this at the Board of Selectmen's meeting for a couple of years, and I never could get a second, even when there was a woman on the board. There are 354 towns in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. 184 of them, 184 of them have already made the decision that they are now renamed select boards. Carver, Plymouth, Duxbury. The only 2 towns that haven't made the switch are Plympton and Halifax that touch on us. It's interesting because we just had the Boston Post Cane Award to the oldest resident in town. It started in 1907 when 700 canes were given out to the oldest male in town. It wasn't until 1930 that women were eligible to get it, the cane. In 1879, the right to vote for women was they could only vote for school committee. They could run for school committee, they could vote for school committee, and that was it. In 1895 and in 1915, again, the House of Representatives turned down the women being allowed to vote. 1920 was the 19th Amendment, which passed women's suffrage, and women were given the right to vote across the country. To me, this is not a politically correct thing. It's just the right thing to do. If we have a select board, Board of Selectmen, that was all women, I don't think it would take much more than 10 minutes to rename it. But it's up to you.
Yes.
Lisa Hart, 7 Maria Lane Drive. Is there a cost associated with this? Is it going to cost the town money to make this change?
Yes. Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Mr. Moderator, I've been told that it would be $1,000 or less to do this one-time item.
Any other
Including changing all the, okay, but including, Mr. Moderator.
His answer was $1,000.
Excuse me?
His answer was $1,000.
And I would just like somebody else to respond to the question also.
Can someone else respond to the question that knows an answer?
We're pulling up the information now.
Mr. Moderator, Mark Russo, 140 Palmer Road. With all due respect to Mr. Trainer and others that are in favor of this, I'd like to speak against the article. The article's come up a name change like this has come up before the Board of Selectmen a couple times, and as Mr. Trainer notes, it didn't gain any traction, even though the chair of the Board of Selectmen at the time was a woman. It's a reasonable thing to do. Many towns have done it. Nonetheless, in my humble opinion, it's unnecessary, and even if it's a little time and a little money, it just doesn't. I think that time and money would be best spent in other ways. If the purpose is to honor women, we already do that. Take a look at town leadership. We are a town of strong women in general. Leadership roles right now: fire chief, town administrator, town clerk, town accountant, town treasurer, head of the Council of Aging, chair of the Zoning Board of Appeals, chair of the Planning Board, and on it goes. Women in leadership roles in this town. And that's what's important, much more important than what we call selectmen. Words are important and titles are important, but even more important is proof in action, and our proof in this town is very clear. Lastly, we're a small town. We really, really appreciate our historical heritage. We've been called selectmen for 350 years. It brings me great joy to call myself a selectman, and I hope at least for a while longer we continue to call our leadership selectmen rather than the new change. Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
Okay, do we have an answer to that other question about the cost? Hearing none. Is there any other comments or questions? All in favor of Article 18, please raise your hands. Down hands, opposed. The article fails. Now, for Article 19, I'm going to start by moving that the moderator does not need to read the entire article and can just read the beginning of it. Do I have a second? All in favor of me not reading the entire article? Down hands, opposed? Okay. Article 19, to see if the town will vote to amend the zoning bylaws codified in Chapter 300 of the Town Code to establish a residential development overlay district as follows, or take any other action relative thereto. This will need a planning board report before we get around to voting on it.
Good evening, Ann Soboleski, 255 Main Street, Chair of the Planning Board. On May 6th, the Planning Board held a duly noticed and published public... Okay. Is this better?
Yes.
Okay, this is very... Sorry. Ann Soboleski, 255 Main Street. On May 6th, the Planning Board held a duly noticed and published public hearing with respect to Article 19. The Planning Board discussed the article. Members of the public were afforded an opportunity to comment, and at the conclusion of that comment and discussion period, the Planning Board recommended this article to the town meeting. We voted in favor of it. So that's the report. And then would you like discussion or?
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions or comments about what this is doing? Does anybody have any questions or comments about what this is doing? If so, please come up.
Well,
would you like to read? Okay.
Yeah.
The sponsor wants to speak more.
Can I speak to it then?
Yes.
I didn't know if you needed to make the motion first before I spoke to it. After.
Yes, we do. Somebody move Article 20, please. You've moved it. Is there a second?
The article.
Proceed.
Okay. So what this is creating an overlay residential zoning district on the piece of property that is the automobile junkyard on County Road. The overlay zoning district does not in any way eliminate the existing zoning for that piece of property. That property is zoned light manufacturing, and it will continue to have that zone. What this does is it creates an overlay that allows the potential construction of residential development on that site at some point in the future if someone were ever interested in doing that. There is no proposal for this property to be developed in this fashion. This complies with the MBTA zoning requirements by creating a district within our town where multifamily residential zoning is allowed by right. That said, this is just a zoning article. It only has to do with dimensions, height, setbacks, and the number of units. It has nothing to do with whether or not you could actually ever construct a significant number of units on this property, as we do not have town water or town sewer. Issues with respect to Title V and water supply are not considered in this at all. It is purely a theoretical zoning exercise that will then allow us to comply with the MBTA zoning requirements and not lose the funding that we receive in grants from the Commonwealth by not having MBTA zoning compliant district in our town. And for point of reference, we've received over $2 million in funding grants of that nature. And so if we do not have such a district, we will not have the opportunity to obtain grants like that in the future. And that will all then have to come out of your and my tax dollars. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions or comments?
Mr. Moderator?
Yes.
I know if, John Trainer, 62 Crescent, I know if this wasn't a money implication article, we never want the state mandating things to us. But this, as Mrs. Williamson said, we've taken in $2,861,000 in the last 3 years. We currently have just received a letter from the Commonwealth of Mass awarding us $73,200 for a police IT program. But the last line is, the receipt of grant funds is contingent upon the guarantee being able to certify that it will comply with the Massachusetts General Law, GL 48, the MBTA Community Act. So if we're willing to do this zoning overlay, we can continue. Our House rep has told us we're the most aggressive town that she serves in terms of going after grants. And I think the fact that we've got almost $1 million each year is proof of that. It's not going to result in anybody building on junkyard land. It just won't. So I hope you'll go ahead with this article and approve it. I think it's a very important article. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Trainer. Yes, ma'am. Speak into the microphone and give your name and address, please.
I saw the
Name and address, please.
Excuse me?
Your name and street address.
Oh, Melissa Lunny, 4 Maple Street. I saw in the article the lot sizes were significantly smaller than lot sizes zoned in Plympton. Would that change zoning lot sizes outside of this designated area? So you're changing the lot?
I'm not saying yes, I'm not answering that.
I'm
saying I understand your question.
Yeah.
I can't answer that. I'm going to refer you to Ms. Soboleski because she can answer that.
The answer to that question is no. This strictly applies to the automobile junkyard. And I would also just like to say that in looking at the area in which to place this zoning overlay district, the planning board actively considered the possibility that multifamily housing, if the technology exists in the future to allow multifamily housing on a lot like that, you know, because perhaps we have town water or sewer in the future, it would be a much better use for the town overall to have housing in that location than an automobile junkyard that potentially pollutes the water supply of the surrounding properties. So I forgot to.
Thank you. That answers your question, I believe. Yes, ma'am.
Corey McRail, 55 Brook Street, and I understand that this is to comply with the state law. I just wanted to make sure, commentary, let everybody know that there are other towns that are fighting this law. Marshfield has an ongoing lawsuit, and 5 other towns have joined that town in the lawsuit. As a resident of Plympton, and reading the law, it says that you need to have either a bus station, a ferry station, a subway station, a train station, which we do not have. So just common sense, I don't see why we would be labeled an MBTA community, and I feel like this would be something we would want to fight. We don't have a station designated in that area, does not allow people to get to the train station that just runs through our town. So just my commentary is maybe, look at it more deeper, not just simply fold and comply to the state.
Thank you. Ms. Sobolewski.
Yes, if I could respond to that. We are an MBTA adjacent community. That is a parameter within the MBTA communities law. It covers both properties that have communities that have rapid transit, communities that have stations in their town, and communities that are adjacent. We are adjacent because we are close to the Halifax train station that I took to Boston for more than 20 years. The requirements for a town that is adjacent are less than the requirements for a town that actually has a station in it. But we do still have to comply with respect to bringing a lawsuit or otherwise fighting this. Look at the legal cost in the budget and imagine that increased exponentially. And I can honestly tell you so far, Milton failed. The SJC determined that Milton failed. And I would be extraordinarily surprised if any of the communities that are currently fighting it would succeed in the future. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing no one, all in favor of Article 19, please raise your hands. Down hands opposed. The article passes. Similarly, I'll begin here by motioning and asking for a second to give the moderator the right to waive reading the entire Article 20.
I make that motion.
Motion's been made and second. All in favor of me not reading all of the article, please raise your hand. Down hands, opposed? Okay. Article 20, to see if the town will vote to amend the zoning bylaw, codified as Chapter 300 of the Town Code as follows, yada, yada, and yada. Planning Board report, please.
Ann Sobolewski, 255 Main Street. The Planning Board held a duly noticed and published public hearing on May 6th to discuss Article 20. The Planning Board discussed the article, accepted comment from members of the public, and at the conclusion of the hearing, voted to recommend approval of this article to town meeting.
Thank you. Would you like to give a little background? Would you like to give us a little background?
Yeah, do you want to move it first or have me?
Oh, yes, I do. Thank you. Sure. So proud that I remember to get the planning board reports tonight. I'm forgetting to get the motion. It's been moved. Has it been moved?
Yes, I move the article.
Do I have a second? Article's been moved in second. Explanation, please.
Okay, so a number of years ago, we modified the zoning bylaw to allow accessory dwelling units within the town of Plympton, subject to certain parameters. So in our current zoning bylaw, we allow them by right if they're within an existing building, or with site plan approval if they are an addition to an existing building. Last fall, the legislature issued a new statute that allows accessory dwelling units in all of the towns in the Commonwealth. And what this does is it makes some modifications to our existing bylaw to bring it into compliance with the change in the state law. The main change here is that the state law allowed accessory dwelling units in an entirely new building. So as I said, we already allowed them in your existing buildings. We allowed them in addition to an existing building, but we didn't say you could build an entirely new building for an accessory dwelling unit. So this corrects that and makes it comply with the law. It also makes a change. We had said in the existing bylaw that we could require more than one parking space for an accessory dwelling unit, and the state act says you can't do that. You can only require one parking space for every accessory dwelling unit. So we've deleted that ability to add more parking spaces. And lastly, we had said in our bylaw that it has to be an owner-occupied unit, and the state law does not allow us to do that. It does not have to be an owner-occupied unit, but it can't be used for a short-term rental. So this makes those corrections to our existing bylaw.
Thank you, Ms. Sobolewski. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor of Article 20, please raise your hand. So, I'm sorry, it says 2/3 also. Opposed? It passes with 2/3. Article 21, to see if the town will vote to adjourn this annual town meeting until 8 a.m. on May 17th, 2025 in the Plympton Townhouse at 5 Palmer Road in Plympton for the sole purpose of conducting the annual town election, and further that this annual town meeting warrant will be dissolved immediately upon closing of the polls on that date. The polls will open at 8 a.m. and shall continuously open for voting until 6 p.m. Please quiet. To bring in their ballots for the following town officers: 1 selectman for 3 years, 1 Board of Assessor member for 3 years, 1 Board of Health member for 3 years, 1 constable for 1 year, 2 Finance Committee members for 3 years, 2 library trustees for 3 years, 1 library trustee for 2 years, moderator for 3 years, planning board member for 5 years, 1 Plympton School Committee member for 3 years, 1 Silver Lake Regional School Committee member for 3 years, and to vote on the following question: Shall the town of Plympton, I didn't write the article, it's not my fault. Shall the town of Plympton be allowed to exempt from the provisions of Proposition 2.5, so-called, the amounts required to pay for the bond issued in order to pay for the design, construction, equipping, and furnishing of a new fire station to be located at Palmer Road Town Center Complex to the rear of the existing police station located at 7 Palmer Road, street number for new fire station to be determined, and all costs related thereto, yes or no. Do I have a motion?
Make a motion that we accept it as printed, the warrant.
And a second?
Second.
All in favor of Article 21, please raise your hands. Down hands, opposed. Article passes. Thank you all very much. Good night. We are in recess till we meet at the polls.